Hello, everyone. My name is Darwin, and I'm a Principal Partner Solutions Architect at GitLab. The IT industry is filled with talk of digital transformation, and like many broad concepts, it can be difficult to figure out what it means in general and whether it merits any changes in how your company operates. Today, I want to unpack the concept of digital transformation and map it to the software delivery capabilities needed to make good on its claimed benefits. When we take a look at the term digital transformation, we want to unpack it a piece at a time. The digital part is really an acknowledgement that technology should have a much greater status among business builders and strategists. It is a call to not limit the role of technology to just a way of powering business or only facilitating business or just a means to providing access to business, but rather consider it a foundational building block for creating customer value. Essentially, we want to consider digital as a part of business DNA, which means it influences both fundamental business building priorities as well as day in and day out operations. Digital transformation fully acknowledges that similar to human DNA, technology plays a very critical role in the ability of business to launch, adapt, survive, and thrive. Now, the transformation part is where things get interesting. A part of the transformation is basically moving the organization to a culture that embraces digital in the fundamental way we just discussed. However, there's an interesting and desirable secondary effect of transforming to a company-wide culture that focuses on innovating in the area of customer value. If you listen closely to the excited digital transformation success stories, they exude a critically important theme of returning to a focus on improving and creating customer value. While digital is the means, a business-level transformation to customer value is the end goal. We essentially recode our company DNA to leverage digital, but to use that new flexibility to obsess about customer value creation, like when the company was first born. If you work for a digital native, it's tempting to believe that your organization does not need to think about digital transformation. But unfortunately, as digital natives scale their organization, it is all too common to fall back into legacy habits that endanger the future. I'm going to walk through this using a visual value chain mapping method known as Wardley mapping. Don't worry, it's super easy to understand, and I'll give you just enough explanation of the method as we go along. The horizontal axis of the Wardley map will use 4 columns labeled Genesis, Custom Built, Product, and Commodity. The fundamental idea here is that every business on the planet moves things that are in the first 2 columns to the last 2 columns. Essentially, you could view something in the left 2 columns as customer problems because they're arduous and challenging to use. The business creates a customer solution by maturing a particular capability into the right 2 columns, where it becomes much easier to use. Let's use the concept of electrical power as an example. If you wanted to leverage electrical power in the early 1900s, you need to build and fuel a power plant of some type. You'd also likely need plant engineers and a machine shop to maintain the capabilities that a power plant depends on in order to operate. If we fast forward to today, electrical power looks very different. It's firmly at the far right of the commodity column. We literally call it a utility. Another way to look at it is that electrical power is a very well-solved problem because it's inexpensive, broadly available, and easy to use. So every business is doing this in some form or fashion, creating customer solutions, moving some of the desirable ability from the left side of this map to the right. This Wardley map also has a vertical axis, which has to do with the visibility level of the solution details to the customer or stakeholder. If we think of electrical power again, most of us understand very well how to use light switches and sockets to power a large variety of devices. We also understand we'll pay a reasonable price for using it. But how exactly the electrical power is always ready behind the walls is a chain of dependencies that are invisible to us, especially the deeper we follow that chain into the details of power generation and distribution. This is actually a great situation. We want to pay someone else to know the details of exactly how it works so that we can simply use it. The real power of a Wardley map comes in helping stakeholders to see just deep enough into the dependencies to more adeptly manage the strategic direction of the company, while also allowing those who manage these dependencies to articulate how their area supports strategic business direction. Like all maps, it gets everyone on the same page. Now, while mapping businesses and customers is a popular use case for Wardley mapping, it's also flexible to map any stakeholder and their consumption of a valuable capability. So today we're going to map the business strategy planner's persona inside of a company, and specifically their need for the business to be more innovative by leveraging digital technology. We'll also be mapping the dependencies that are implied in the critical technical realm. This persona would be those people in the company who decide what is the core customer value we provide in the marketplace. Now, a key principle to Wardley mapping is to avoid mapping the whole world in one map. So while we're focusing on technology dependencies, digital transformation efforts would also benefit from mapping business process dependencies and culture, or what we'd call people dependencies, as they're important vectors to true change as well. When an organization's strategic planners first start the digital transformation journey, they'll probably experiment with trying the principle on a limited basis, an iteration or a project to see what value it might have. When mapping technical capability dependencies on this process, we quickly find out the entire software delivery process is a primary dependency. In modern parlance, we call this DevOps. However, even for organizations that don't consider themselves to have adopted DevOps, they generally have a conglomerate of systems that provide software delivery capabilities that precede the emergence of DevOps in their organization. Now, since a comprehensive approach to DevOps is a recent emergence in the market, for many organizations, this capacity is self-made and self-maintained. Here I'm depicting it as a DIY DevOps toolchain. Now, I have to admit, I've made a few of these myself, and I've been proud of them. And I still would be proud of them if they were the state of the art today. And that's because they were a lot better than what preceded them. So if you've been involved in building one of these, you understand the history of the evolution of software delivery capability. While DIY DevOps reflects a more structured value-generating capability than what preceded it, it carries a substantial cost, and it's no longer the state-of-the-art in software delivery capability. I would like to draw your attention to the initially perceived need for digital transformation. It's identified by the blue circle on the mid-left of the diagram. While it's important to experiment in small steps, the most perceptive business strategists come to understand that a focus on customer value innovation through digital should not be done only under a project basis. Instead, it needs to become a permanent aspect of how the entire business culture thinks, an always-on process that is constantly innovating at the level of expanding value for end customers. On our map, we'll refer to this as continuous customer value innovation. This is how companies like Apple stay at the center of their customers' purchasing decisions. They create new customer value as a regular business practice. Wordly mapping also allows us to uncover maturity spectrums for various capabilities. And in this case, we can see that there is a maturity spectrum for the capability of that customer value innovation. On the left is a maturity that reflects very occasional bursts of customer value innovation that have to overcome a lot of change resistance and gravity in the organization. On the right is the idea that customer value innovation should be embedded, continuous behavior of the entire organization. A new book titled The Value Flywheel Effect is about creating an engine that is capable of generating a steady stream of business value from technology innovations. Now, in the case that a company is serious about creating a business value engine, it becomes quickly apparent that engines don't run well on mud balls. The wheels on the bus go round and round in the mud, but we aren't getting full traction for our efforts. The idea that unknown dependencies can inhibit our stakeholders from achieving their business goals is known in Wardley mapping as inertia, and it's depicted here as a runner jumping a hurdle. But if you think about attempting to push an object through jelly, you probably get a more accurate idea of the fully surrounding friction that inertia can provide. In these situations, it's not impossible, but extremely challenging to make progress and to sustain the effort. A customer value innovation engine really needs to be built on top of a software delivery foundation capable of sustained throughput. In technology, we have the concept of undifferentiated heavy work. In other words, work that does not directly create customer value. When we find such work, we look for ways to externalize it so that someone else can maintain a capacity that we depend on, but does not directly create customer value for us. This is how your company currently consumes electrical power. So the commoditization of software delivery capability occurs when it becomes an easy-to-consume capability. A DevOps platform approach is the fastest way to advance to this level. With that understanding, we can also plainly see that we have another maturity spectrum here, and that is a maturity spectrum that we depend on for our continuous customer value innovation. With the maturity spectrums both identified, it's clear that any lack of maturity in software delivery is going to cause friction to maturing the business capability. Having a platform approach to software delivery is a critical necessity in this case, but it's not sufficient by itself. Software development for high-value products is complex and nuanced, so it's critically important that the platform have the maturity of being extensible. Non-extensible platforms are quickly abandoned because of how narrow their use case focus is. Unfortunately, even an extensible platform is still not sufficient. It is actually very easy for our technology capability in the bottom spectrum to focus on factory-like efficiency of activities. For instance, if we measure our software delivery process by how many lines of code are being produced during a time period, we're looking at activity. There's no direct correlation to the value being created by that activity. If, however, we measure something like how long it takes for a customer innovation to go from being an idea to being in the customer's hands, we have a value measurement. It's the way that we can tell that our system is focused on value and keeps the team focused on value is whether or not we have metrics in the system that keep everyone focused on value instead of activity. Now, we all know the wise and true saying that what gets measured gets done, but it's also important to note that what gets measured gets innovated. Now, GitLab is an extensible, value-focused software delivery platform. This allows you to improve at software delivery excellence very rapidly, while also keeping software delivery processes themselves focused on supporting continuous customer value innovation. Another important aspect of any platform you adopt is vitality. How much additional value does it give you over time and at what cost? Well, it turns out we build GitLab with GitLab. And GitLab as a company has been releasing new customer value innovations monthly for over 11 years without any release-associated pricing increases. So at GitLab, we know this map to be true because we live it every day. We'd love for you to join us in the benefits of a culture focused on continuous customer value innovation. Let's summarize what this map helps us understand. First, digital transformation is the company-level embrace of digital as a foundational business value building block. Additionally, it also enables a return to a focus on customer value innovations through digital and throughout the organization. This focus, though, needs to be matured into a continuously delivered capability of customer value innovation. But the ability to do so depends on the maturity level of our software delivery process. To the degree that software delivery maturity lags, it becomes a direct and substantial friction to maturing the value of digital transformation. Software delivery can be accelerated by adopting a mature and extensible DevOps platform. When that platform is specifically focused on value delivery, it keeps the software delivery function aligned with the business capability of customer value innovation. So this complete map shows how the power of GitLab's extensible value-focused DevOps platform will fuel your customer-facing mission. My name is Darwin, and it's been my pleasure to explain the relationship between digital transformation and software delivery capability